Okay, first of all, I know this looks a tiny bit different. It's just the way it downloaded, but the problems are the same. So bear with me here as I kind of add stuff in. I know that yours looks a little different. The first one says find the product and write your answer as a mixed number. And you guys have 16 times 2 and 7/10 right next to it. And so all that you'd have to do in this situation is you would put a 1 underneath the 16. And then you're just going to multiply across. You would do 16 times 2. And then you would do 1 times 7. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, down here. Find the quotient. So you're going to put the first number inside the division house. And then you would divide by the second number. However, you can't have a decimal on the outside. So you're going to move it over one space. And then whatever you do on the outside, you have to do on the inside too, so you'll move this one over one space. And so essentially your decimal is going to go in between the 9 and the 2. For me, I always like to rewrite it just because it gets messy, but you can do you. But if you do rewrite it, it would look like that. A store is implementing a 5% increase on all of the prices. Write this as a decimal and as a fraction. Okay, so as a decimal, you take away the percent sign, and then the decimal is right here. It's just implied that it's right there, and then you would move it over 2 spaces. Okay, so this is what the decimal would look like. As a fraction, you take it and you write it over 100, but you have to simplify. Even if they don't say simplify, you have to start simplifying all of these. You're seeing that you're losing points. Just you have to get in the simplify frame of mind. Now number 4 looks way different on yours than it does mine. I have like this funky little shading thing. Okay, so you should have on yours, which looks way better than mine, you have 4 shaded across and then 2 shaded right here. Okay, this is what we've been doing. What percent? So percent is missing. And then the 100 is your free space. And so we just have to figure out how many there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across and 4 up. That means there's a total of 20. As far as the shaded goes, it looks like we have 6 shaded. And this is that like part over whole equals percent over 100. And so there's a scale factor for this one. And so as long as you can figure out that scale factor, you're good to go. If you can't figure out the scale factor, you cross multiply and divide by 20. Okay, 75% of the class is making a B or higher. If there are 24 students in the class, how many are making a B or higher? So 75% of the class, always put the percent over 100. If there are 24 in the class, that's my total. So my total goes on the bottom. I'm trying to figure out what is the number of 75%. Like how many kids is that? I can tell you right now there's no scale factor. So you're going to cross multiply and then divide by 100. Okay. Find the quotient. Oh, this must be another missing one for me. Find the quotient, write your answer as a mixed number. Write it in simplest form. So you have 14 23rds divided by 4 12ths. So you're going to do keep, change, flip it to its reciprocal. So you'd keep the first one, change the sign, change 4 12ths into its reciprocal, which is now 12 fourths. And then you can either simplify diagonally, or you can simplify at the end, but you're multiplying across. Find the product. 85 hundredths times 2/10. I would take away the zeros just so you have less steps. And then there is 2 spaces behind the decimal here, 1 space behind the decimal here. That's a total of 3 spaces. So you'll have, like, your decimal will have 3 spaces at the end of it. You'll move it over 3 spaces just like those. Okay, solve using a scale factor. 6 to 7 equals x to 21. All you're doing is finding out what x is. Find the scale factor here and do the same one up top to make it equivalent ratios. Convert to a decimal and a percent. So to convert to a decimal, you would do top in, bottom out, and divide. Or you could look at the benchmark fraction wall. And then once you figure out your decimal for a percent, you just take your decimal and you move it 2 places to the right and add the percent sign. All right. The 6th grade class held a talent show of 300 6th graders. 246 decided to attend. What percent of the 6th grade class attended the show? 100 always goes here. The percent is missing, so that's like our X. There's a total of 300, that's our whole. And our part is 246. There's no scale. Oh, there is a scale factor. Yes. So go ahead and figure out what that scale factor is, and then you can do it on the top. All right. What is the absolute value of negative 9 8/10? Absolute value is how many places away are you from 0? How many places or spaces are you away from 0? You can never be negative spaces away. I guess should say spaces, not places. Simplify the expression. You have 28 plus 87 divided by 3. This is refreshing PEMDAS. There's no parentheses. There's no exponents. There is multiplying and dividing, so we would start there. Write as a decimal and a percent. You have 7/8. Start by doing top in, bottom out, divide. For your percent, you move the decimal 2 places and add the percent sign. Determine if these ratios are equivalent. I would set them up in the fraction format. And then just figure out, is there a scale factor? And is the scale factor the same? The scale factor has to be the same for it to be equivalent. All right, we're filling in the missing blanks here, okay? So I will just do the first one. So we have 80%. To make that a decimal, I would take away the percent sign, move the decimal 2 places. So this is what that would look like. For a fraction, if I had a percent, I would put it over 100, and then I would simplify. Oh, and look, I can even simplify more. This one would end up being 4/5. This is just like you did your task cards on, or your boom cards on the other day. You have that journal entry that shows you each one of these components and how to do it. So you should feel comfortable with this after that. All right, I'm moving over to 20. Caitlin read 15 pages in 5 minutes. At this rate, how many can she read in 1 minute? Let's take the pages and divide it by the minutes. And that'll tell us how many she can do in 1 minute. Or you could go like this, 15 pages in 5 minutes. Set it up to an equivalent ratio with 1 minute on the bottom. And then you can figure out the scale factor. It's the same as dividing, but it may be easier for you to do it that way. Okay, here I'm going again with my little micro machine size thing. You guys have one of them shaded. What percent of this figure is shaded? Okay, well, I'm going to put my 100 right here. My percent is missing. There's a total of 5, and one of them is shaded. And so it looks like there's a scale factor there. Miss Yerger spent 8 hours at work in a 24-hour day. Write a simplified ratio that compares the hours she's at work to the hours she's not at work. We're going to do a tic-tac-toe here because I know we have some missing information. So we're going to do a work, a not at work, and total hours. So she spends 8 hours at work and there's a total of 24 hours in a day. That means 16 hours of the day she's not at work. And so you're setting up something for the hours. What is it? Compares the hours. So we want to know work to not at work. And so you can pull the numbers from over there and make your simplified fraction, or make the fraction, and then you have to simplify it. All right, which of the 5 numbers belongs in the shaded group? Okay, so the shaded group are rational numbers. Rational numbers are like negative decimals. All decimals, actually. All fractions. They're all the gross numbers. That's what rational numbers are. Now, I'll tell you right now that 19 is not one of them. They just have that decimal on there, but it would be fine if it was just 19. So 19 is not an option. Lane is building a fence and purchases 3 boards for each. And they each measure 2 91/100ths. How many meters of fence board did he purchase? So you could take, if each of them are this long and there's 3 of them, you could do that. If you're not a big fan of multiplying, you could add it up 3 times.